for me, that's what prayer is. I get affected by it, and it helps me, and then it shifts my consciousness, my way of being in the world. So prayer always has some kind of effect one way or another on me, and usually it's the sticking with it, going over it more and more. But that's just my way. See, and that's the thing, that's
right.
What's personal to me. And I'm very aware of people who can get in that place doing other things.
Other things, sure.
Yeah.
When life throws a challenge at you, one thing is certain: to find a resolution for every issue, every problem, for everybody, there's more than one way. So we've been talking about prayer, and we had a great conversation with Jake where he shared some of his personal journey and experiences, and we shared some of that as well. And we wanted to continue that conversation and continue to speak about the mysteries of prayer, but also the practicalities of prayer as well, and just kind of how those things go hand in hand and can be helpful at different times.
Yeah, I really appreciated the conversation with Jake because of the personalness of it, how personal it got. And I think at its heart, prayer has to be that. You know, really, really have to get to that place where I'm deeply affected and deeply in tune with something greater than myself. To me, when I really get at what prayer is, it's getting at that. What helps me do that? And, you know, a lot of times in my experience, and I'm interested to hear yours, that doesn't happen kind of like just overnight, you know.
Yeah.
In my experience, usually, and it's why I was trying to use the example of morning and evening prayer. It was, most people need some kind of help to get to that place.
Yeah.
Some kind of book or maybe music or something that the person can use that helps them almost get into another frame of mind. And I think that's why different spiritual traditions came up with things like prayer books. And I think you were telling me about somebody who did something.
Yeah, somebody was talking about using prayer beads or the rosary just as a kind of a tool that helped them at times just kind of step into prayer. And that it was something that just the rhythm of that they found really beneficial.
Yeah, I think all of us at some point in time need something beyond just our own mind.
Yeah.
Or our own, you know, we need help. Something that helps us along the way.
Some kind of guide or tool.
Yeah. And those guides and tools are great until they become like there's only one way to do it. You know,
right.
you got to do it this way, and you have to say this thing, and you have
that's becoming limiting instead of expansive.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens is then it limits prayer, and then there's, for me, my experience anyway, then there's less of effect on the person praying.
So when that starts to happen, maybe you sense that or notice that, or it becomes so routine, where do you go from there?
Yeah, then I think that's a great question, and I think that's when you, to me, start to shift. So for me, you know, after 5-6 years of every day doing a morning and evening prayer, it did start to get a little bit too rote, a little bit too, and that's what took me toward meditation, centering prayer, and that whole world. You know, the world of silent prayer, where you kind of sit and either breathe or have some means to try to let your thoughts just go, though it never works completely. But you just don't attach to your thoughts, and that became more of my prayer, and still is more. You know, the idea that I'm more trying to get into the flow, or get into a rhythm, or get like the beads, or get into a deeper relationship with, once again, something greater than myself. That we often call God.
Yeah.
And so, for me, that's what prayer is. I get affected by it, and it helps me, and then it shifts my consciousness, my way of being in the world. So prayer always has some kind of effect one way or another on me, and usually it's the sticking with it, going over it more and more. But that's just my way. See, and that's the thing, that's
right.
What's personal to me. And I'm very aware of people who can get in that place doing other things.
Other things, sure.
Yeah. What have you heard?
You know, I have a friend that likes to cook, and they that's their spot. When they're in the kitchen combining things, making up recipes, the taste, the flavor. I mean, just the whole thing.
Yeah.
And even when you watch it, you see that aliveness in them when they do it. I mean, it's neat to watch just because it's something like, okay, that's who they are.
Yeah.
There's something in that. And it's, it's not like feel like I'm watching that person pray, but in the way we're describing it, I'm watching them just fully alive.
Yeah. And once again, for me, like everything else, prayer is a huge concept. Everything else in the spiritual realm, prayer is a huge concept, and there's all sorts of ways to get at it, right? And to understand what we're trying to do. And so for me, I would say you were watching her pray.
Yeah.
Right? I get it. I've another friend says that she, especially when she was younger, would go shoot baskets. But, she'd take a basketball. And my son kind of said this to me when he was younger. The dribbling, the rhythm of the dribbling, and then watching the ball go through the hoop, and something about that just really engaged him in not only what he was doing, but just in himself. Right? And I had another son who was a swimmer, same kind of thing. Another daughter who was a runner, same kind of thing. The rhythmic doing it over and over and over again did something to your mind.
So the physicality
adds
led
to
into
it.
that somehow.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I did too when I was younger, because I've always just been on this journey, I went out to a place in California and was taking some classes out there. And every morning before we started our classwork, we did a thing called body prayer.
Okay.
So your physicality thing reminded me of that. And so the body prayer was, at one point it was a Hindu person, a Hindu musician, who had taken Hindu chants and put them into kind of 21st century music.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he would chant and play this music, and it was just this rhythmic, it's almost like a rave.
Okay.
Right? So this rhythmic over and over and over. And everybody just got into it.
So there's kind of a collective energy.
Yeah, and nobody was actually saying anything, and nobody had their eye. Well, I had my eyes closed, but had eyes closed, but nobody was like doing what might be considered traditional prayer, but it was prayer nonetheless. And like I said, they called it body prayer. So you're getting your body involved, and by getting my body involved, that's what happened. I had that same sense that you're talking about with the chef, with the cook. This deep, deep sense of participation in life, being a part of it, the great rhythms of life.
Yeah.
Right? And once again, I think, for me anyway, what I enjoyed about talking with Jake was trying to get at that. And that prayer isn't just this formal thing. Prayer can contain so many things. So things that you wouldn't expect to be prayer, like shooting baskets or cooking or gardening or...
Yeah, I've heard that for people, definitely just that connection to earth and the growth cycle and seeds and just all of that being something that really draws them.
So anything that does that, anything that draws you, I think can be seen within the context of the larger context of what we mean when we say prayer. Because, prayer is this, for me, attempt to engage, once again, something beyond myself, more than my ego, and that in that engagement, I'm affected by it.
And it may, with that definition, I mean, it may be that people are praying more than they think.
And then you realize.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. If you think of it more kind of in the traditional definition, versus it being something that's a part of your life, your everyday.
Yeah. And nothing wrong with the traditional things. If that is something that's moving you and worked up, that's great. It's just that I think sometimes to see something that you fully enjoy and are really engaged in as part of the religious/spiritual world, I think is a newish kind of thing, though it's not new. It goes way back into the ancient world. So prayer doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't have to be, serious in the sense of it almost like morose or morbid,
Right.
you know, but it is that thing that helps you open up and connect to your deeper self and to something beyond yourself. Right. And like I said, and so there can be many layers of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's, I think about in my own life too, there have been seasons where one thing may have been that, and then maybe it isn't for a while, you know, and just shifting between something more formal or something more open-ended and creative, and just that mix being what feels like the right thing.
Yeah. And it's so important to pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when is it time to say, okay, I need to stick with what I'm doing, but I just need to have a little more discipline with it and kind of keep using it. And when is it time to say, no, I got to switch it up.
It's like you had mentioned the example last time about going to the gym and doing one push-up.
Yeah.
You know, which, yes, you were at the gym, you did a push-up, you know, but if you want more, you know, there's more there to do that can lead you somewhere. Yeah.
Right. That can have more of an effect on you. And going to the gym and doing one push-up will have an effect. Sure. And I'm not even saying that I hope that doesn't sound critical, because I don't really mean it to be critical. I just mean just what you said. There's there's always more. Right? So there's part of the deal within the spiritual world and engaging this mystery that we call God is to say there's always more. We're always learning. It's always something new. We're always stepping into, on some level, the unknown. And while that could be frightening to some at some points in their life, at times it could be exhilarating.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, you know, with the idea for some people, there are moments when that's too much.
Yeah.
You know, when I need it to be more defined.
Yes.
You know, I need it to feel more within reach, you know, and then there are other moments when, no, I need it to be bigger.
Yeah, stretch it out of it.
Yeah.
Fair enough, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, then, you know, let's just say running is your prayer. Running is the place that really, well, yeah, there's sometimes when you need to run 2 miles.
Right.
And you got to, and 2 miles is enough, and you just, that's it.
Yeah.
And then something comes along, and it's like, maybe you do one of those things like you do on your retreat type things. And it's like, no, I got to go further than that now.
Right.
Same. To me, it's all within that line.
Yeah.
You know, because in the end, once again, prayer is really trying to shift our consciousness, trying to help us engage more deeply this mystery of life, this mystery of being alive, and stay open to the fact that we just will never have it all nailed down.
Mm-hmm.
I've used this example before. The Buddhists call it entering into things with a beginner's mind.
Okay.
As if this is the first time you ever did it. Right? And not, I got this.
Right.
I got this prayer thing. Got it wired. Right? You know, you say this at this time, this at this time. I always say it in the name of Jesus, and you're good. And that's great. But there's just more.
So when you have someone come to you that's looking to deepen in prayer, or maybe even begin praying, maybe they haven't, and they ask for support or guidance, what do you say, or how do you support them?
Yeah, part of that makes me think of what Jake said, like when he was 13.
Yes.
And he didn't know who to turn to. And so it's amazing, you know, that he ended up with the cosmic companion, which is, in my experience, very unique. Yeah. That usually comes later on. So if somebody comes to me, I wouldn't say, hey, go look for the cosmic companion. You know, that's not, once again, it's so unique and so personal to him. And so that would be the first thing. I would try to find, where is this person and who is this person? Maybe some of the things that we're talking about, what does this person like to do? And right. And if they wanted a little bit more kind of help, I recently had a young man come to me and say he wanted to pray more. And he wanted to do it in a way that was kind of more what you might call traditional. Okay. So I gave him a prayer book. Gotcha. And then I said, here's some things that you can do, because within it there's this part that's like daily devotions for early morning, for noon, for early evening, and right before bed.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I said, well, just take a look at these and see if and then look through the book and see what catches your eye, and then let me know, and then I'll go back to him and see if something did catch his eye, and if it was. So that's what I would do. I for most people, like I said before, we need help.
Sure. Yeah.
And depending on your personality type, some people need help and they need it formal. So then I would say, well, find a church that has something like morning prayer every morning and go do that. If you don't have the chance to do that, if that's not just if that's impossible in your life schedule, then I would try to find something that you could have with you wherever you are. Yeah. And then you just do it when you feel like you need to. Right? If somebody needed a little bit, depending on personality type, if they needed a little bit more discipline than that, a little bit more direction, then I would say, what time do you wake up? Yeah. Right? And I would say, after you wake up and get yourself as awake as you could be, let's just say 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock, do this.
Set some sort of routine.
Yeah. At noon, do this. And, and if they needed to know how long it would take, and once again, if I said, well, it can take as long as you want, and that's not enough for them, then I would say, well, it'll probably take you about 5-10 minutes. And I think that would be a good start. And
then come back, see how that works, and continue to
and then in a
try
year,
it on.
You might see where you are from it. And so I just think this just brings up a really good point, and I think our conversation with Jake showed it. He started looking in different denominations. Right? Yeah. You don't necessarily have to do that, but you could. Or you can just look at, once again, different tools, different things that help you get what you're looking for. And so, after, like I said, in a year, it might be, okay, we're not going to just do these daily devotions. We'll add some other things into it. While at the same time, you're paying attention to some of the stuff that we talked about, like, when are you most alive? When do you feel like you're really just in a zone, really in the place? Maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's shooting baskets. Maybe it's swimming. Maybe it's running. Maybe it's walking. On and on, and then try to open them up to that idea that that's prayer too. But if somebody comes right off the bat, usually in my experience, they need some kind of help, some kind of tool. And most of us need it most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to have those to go back to. At times
fantastic.
Too.
So you have the wisdom of your ancestors, as it were, the wisdom of your spiritual tradition, right at your hands. Yeah. And with the online stuff, well, because that's another thing. With all the online stuff, you can get apps.
Sure.
And other things that help you, once again, try to get into that sense of a flow and that sense of, if nothing more than just kind of pull out of your normal routine just for a little bit. Yeah. I was with two different Bible studies today, and I always struck by how, just how much pressure and how much activity / work people are involved in. Yeah. And so every now and again, you just need a break from it. Just need to step away. And I think you can see these things like that.
Yeah. And I like what you said, because you kind of spoke to kind of a beginning, but also to a journey as well. Yeah. That it's an ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing thing. And
discover.
And it's so much has to do with where you are in your life. Yeah. And what your temperament is. And the time that you even have. Right. Right? All that stuff has something to do with it.
So tell me, I know in the last episode you talked a little bit about kind of growing up in a tradition with the prayer book and kind of that being your start. Talk to me a little bit about how that shaped you and how that brought you to where you are now.
Yeah, how it shaped me was some of what I was just saying before. It kind of kept me in the tradition that I was raised in, gave me some wisdom and some practices. Practices meaning like reading scripture in a way that's beyond study, kind of reading scripture like over and over again to see what connects. Yeah. Right. And same thing with the some of the prayers, like saying prayers over and over again to kind of get into it more.
Mm-hmm.
So it connected me to my tradition, and it gave me discipline, and it helped me feel a part, once again, a part of something more, something beyond myself. And how it shaped me, it was just like that. I just became somebody who needed to do that, needed to have that morning and evening discipline, and that just helped me live. In time, as I said, I think a little earlier, that just, I kind of got tired out by that. 5-6 years was about as far as I could go. And then that's how I found Thomas Keating, who's the guy, a guy who's a Benedictine monk out in Colorado. He and these other people started a thing called centering prayer, and they got taught by Buddhist monks different forms of meditation. And then they also used this book that's in the Christian tradition called The Cloud of the Unknowing, which is a 15th century book that goes way back, that tried to get us into what I'm going to call a prayer of silence. And so centering prayer became a method, I guess you could say, of picking a word, choosing a word, sitting for 20 minutes, and whenever you start to think, which is inevitable, repeating that word in your own mind so that the thoughts could just pass by. So the thoughts would be almost like boats going by on a river. Okay. And you just don't jump on any of the boats.
Gotcha.
Right? You just let them. And how that shaped me was I realized, thoughts come and go. I don't have to attach to them.
Right.
I sometimes do, but I don't have to. And so that kind of gave me a rhythm of
a way to observe versus
kind of, once again, a break for incessant thinking, kind of that monkey mind.
That's interesting. I was doing a little research, just thinking about this topic, and kind of went down a rabbit hole of the neurological side of what happens when people pray. And there have been lots of studies that they've looked at different traditions in the brain, and it's interesting how there's certain parts of the brain that increase in activity, and then there are other portions that decrease in activity. And it was just talking about some of those, like the idea, the kind of sense of connection and emotion kind of heightens, but the sense of kind of self and space kind of decreases. And it was like, okay, that makes sense, know. And so it was from a more of a medical standpoint of just physiologically, this is what something is happening when you're in that state. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it might not look like it is, but but something is. Yeah, and that's my experience. And it helps with anxiety.
Sure.
Helps with like not touching. So as time has gone on, I still do centering prayer, but I've brought more breath work into it as well, because that helps a lot with anxiety and calming, which I sometimes find the world just moving so quickly that I need something to help me calm.
Yeah, agree.
And that does it. But then some of these other things that we just started talking about I started incorporating more in seeing as prayer, like walking every day in some form or fashion is a big one for me. And in that walk, trying to just same thing with the thoughts, not get too attached to thoughts. Really try to just be present to what's going on on the walk. That's a big one. And those are probably the things that I do the most in that realm. And it's how it shapes me, how it continues to shape me, is especially keeping me open, once again, to what I said before, how grand and mysterious and sometimes terrifying life is. What prayer really helps me see is, God, you get to be alive in this.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's, like I said, it's joyful and grand, and sometimes it's hard and not so grand, and I got to work through all that, but it's all part of the deal. And I think prayer helps me with that.
I think one thing that I've found where I sometimes have a hard time, like sitting with a word like that.
Yeah.
And I've found for me personally that if I write, that's kind of a way for me to kind of repeat a word
Yeah.
just in that form, that movement helps. So there'll be a phrase or something that I'll just write kind of repeatedly for a while. And for me, that's easier than for me kind of meditating on a word with the thoughts and those kinds of things. It's just a tool.
Yeah. That's fantastic, though.
Yeah.
To know that is just great. Once again, I don't think everything is for everybody. Coming back to where we started, it's so personal.
I think, when we think about prayer, it's another one of those words that has a lot of things attached to it. People have a picture or an idea when that word is said a lot of times. And, you're talking about it being personal and individual. And do you ever find that people struggle with that because of kind of what their concept of what prayer is?
Yeah, definitely. People think it's one thing. Like some of the people I talk to will say things like, well, prayer is talking to God and meditation is listening to God. So they'll separate it that way. And I'm really just kind of saying it's all under the one big umbrella of prayer.
Gotcha.
And so, and then other people don't see the listening part as pertinent.
Okay.
That meaning that, I don't mean that bad. I really mean that. They really see that this is a time to just kind of put out there all that's on your mind and that you need to God. And some of them will do it in a formal way. Dear God, please, blah, blah, blah. And once again, I think if that has an effect, if that helps in some way, no slam on it. I'll take that back. The only slam on it is when that becomes the only way that they see that, not just prayer for them, but for everybody. So that's all prayer is. I think when you get into that place, I think that then when a tragedy happens and people say things like, you're in my thoughts and prayers, that's how why for me anyway, it can sound so hollow.
Gotcha.
Because then they're thinking, oh, you're just going, dear God, please don't let that happen again, or something like that.
Right.
Well, and I would say, okay, well, that's like the one push-up, that's starting. But if we're going to really, really just keep saying we're going to pray about whatever it is that are causing these tragedies, to me, we got to do more.
Yeah.
There's got to be more in it than that. Or it ends up sounding hollow, especially to people who only think prayer is the dear God, please.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right. So that would be my only slam is that if it gets that narrow, then it almost feels like it's just trite, and prayer's not trite.
No.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the More Than One Way podcast, brought to you by the Center for Spiritual Practice in Knoxville, Tennessee. We really appreciate your time and would love to hear your feedback. You can reach us by emailing hello@morethanonewaypod.com, or you can connect with us on social media using the handle @morethanonewaypod. If you found this episode helpful, we hope that you'll share it with your friends, with your family, with people you work with all the people who you know. Thank you and take care.